Welcome to the BrickHaus of Art. I'm your host, Brick Astley. The purpose of this talk show is to highlight independent artists in Web3. This is a special edition episode of the BrickHaus of Art. Is meant to complement the Soul City Radio BrickHaus of Art, that's Fire pop-up art show that's happening September 9th in Rancho Cordova, California at the Starbucks on Folsom and Dawes. All the information is located below in the description. Today, we're going to have a conversation with RichwaterNFT in regards to some incredible aerial wildfire photography he sent me. I told him we're having an art show to talk about wildfire safety, and he said, "Brick, let me learn you something about wildfire safety and forestry conservation." And I said, I'm all bricks. I got my bricks on, so I'm ready to get into this conversation. Before that, I want to just say thank you to some of our sponsors, Soul City Radio, JT Liss, and the Solana Foundation. Thank you for your support. Without further ado, RichWater, thank you so much for your time today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you. Welcome.
My bro, Brick. It's a pleasure. We've been needing to do this for a while. And the fact that you would come to me and talk about something that I was so heavily involved in previously prior to Web3 and so passionate about, it's an honor, really, because I don't get to go down this path very often with people talking about wildfires and safety and just the relevance and how huge that impact is in our lives. So, brother, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Hey, thank you. Very, very grateful. You were the first person that came to mind. We were on an episode, I think it was a weekend Rise Before Grind, and we started talking, and hey, I'm doing this art show about wildfire safety, and you gave me some of your experience. You gave everybody this really deep story about being a firefighter, and I had to come to you. There was nobody else, so the honor is all on this side. Very grateful and very humbled for this opportunity. So I know who you are, but for those that are meeting you for the first time, can you give me a little bit of background on your life previous to Web3 as a volunteer firefighter?
Yeah, for sure, dude. Oh my goodness. Did you see how I looked off into the distance and I was about to start one of my long stories? I'll have to do a medium to short version here so we don't drag the audience through the mud. My life prior to Web3 was super interesting. I've been very, very grateful to have an extremely full and complex life, and many opportunities to take on endeavors. And one of them was where I ended up involved in firefighting in aviation. Weirdly enough, that job stemmed from a fire disaster we had back in Australia in, I think, 2010. It was a terrible day called Black Saturday, and it was this fire event down in Victoria, down outside of Melbourne, where I was living at the time. And it was a perfect storm, and basically fire rained down on some of the communities outside of Melbourne and devastated them. 174 people, I believe, were killed that day. A very close friend included in that, and that was a scary day anyway, because I was living close to the fires. My girlfriend at the time was in emergency services working for them. So in between all of her communication, she was then messaging me and letting me know what's happening. And I had gotten word that my friend Danny had got caught up in trying to protect the property with his father. Unfortunately, they didn't make it out. They were asphyxiated, and Danny was killed that day, and his father died in a coma about a week later. Which was actually quite good because his injuries were terrible, and we were dreading at the thought of him waking up and realizing that he'd lost his son. So it was a tragic event. Stemming from that, they had instigated in the government. Someone had to be blamed for the amount of deaths, whether there was a reason or not. So the government had instigated a protocol where all of the power line infrastructure within Victoria had to be checked every year now, because they had pinpointed the source of the fire to some arcing power lines which had dropped and caused a spark. So a job appeared, which was basically power line aerial observations, which has been done for a long time, but they went very heavy. And I became friends with the owner of a helicopter company who was doing that. And I literally saw someone when I was over at his place for dinner one day, gearing up in the side of a helicopter, sitting outside of it. He had this big camera and all of this flash equipment and everything like that. And he took off in the helicopter, and I was just like, fuck, I want that job. That looks so sick. I really would like to just hang out of a helicopter all day. So it took a couple of years of work to train and be ready for that position. And then I got the lead role as the aerial photographer for that company. And then I spent close to a decade flying around in helicopters, photographing power line infrastructure all over Australia for fire prevention. That led into another career where I got poached, which was in 2016, I think it was. I got poached to become a specialist intelligence gathering airborne systems officer. So it was an upgrade to a different system where we're using very high-tech equipment for fire mapping and data acquisition for in real time for emergencies. And so I trained very heavily for that job, and then I spent a decent amount of time doing that, which is then where I got all of these images, which I had submitted to you guys of all of the fires, because I had the opportunity. I was spending every day flying around at low, mid, and high altitudes above fire events, so I had the best view of everyone. So I decided to create an art project out of it too. So it was quite sort of consequential how I ended up in that career. And I had a very close attachment to it, obviously, because fires had affected my life. I had lost the lives of others close to me, and I carry that a lot with me. I still carry that to this day too.
I'm really sorry to hear about the loss of your friend and that tragedy. Um, uh, Very
It's good
grateful
having
to
it's good having a drink after that. I should
yeah,
have put a bit of
yeah.
Bailey's or some whiskey in my coffee this morning.
Put some whiskey in. But thank you for opening up and sharing that with me. And it it almost seems like that it was meant for this, while there was the tragedy that came from all of this, from Black Saturday, that your life is revolving around fire and fire safety, so you've become a beacon and amplification for talking about wildfire safety and influencing those around you to practice that just through your narrative. And so you're taking the hands of others through your storytelling. So very grateful for you to
Yeah,
share that with us. Thank you.
yeah, of course, man. It's very emotional. It's an emotional thing.
Is it difficult to deal with have you had to deal with mental trauma from seeing some of these events? You say you've seen quite a few different fires there. Just even looking through some of these images, and you said you were going for it for quite some time, taking the aerial photography. Have you noticed any effects of that, and how have you handled some of that, if you don't mind me asking? Let's
It's a
just
good
open
question,
up the
mate. Because
can. Let's just pry that can open. I'm sorry, and we're going for it.
if if I end up in tears, it's quite all right. It's you know what, dealing with that kind of stuff's really interesting, Brick, because in EMS, in emergency services, you work with a lot of weather hardened people. You know, a lot of people there with great many years, many decades of experience in working with natural resources, fighting fires, land management, all of that kind of stuff. And also in aviation, it's a very leathery job. So you know, I've lost many people that I know in aviation, and then the next morning, every day, you'll just get up, have your moment of silence, and you know, wish the best, condolences to the close friends and family, and move on, start your day's work. Uh, so so coming out of the job, I flew for 12 years, and it was all low level stuff, and very high risk environments. It's 58% higher risk of crashing flying low level than it is any other form of aviation, because you're in the wire environment and you don't have altitude to save you. So there was always this resignation of your life being in someone's hands every time, you know, the pilot pull on the collective, and the machine lifted off the ground. And I hadn't really processed that. In 2019, we had the worst recorded fires in history worldwide in Australia when the country was devastated. And I was dragged back from Canada to go and attend those fires. And I flew for 134 days straight in that season, and I watched half of Australia burn from the top to the bottom, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kilometers, Brick, of fire fronts. Now, every tree and every bit of land that's burning has a form of life in it, whether it's insects, critters, cattle, native wildlife, occasionally humans, and I got to experience the destruction of a lot of that firsthand, and I watched it. So coming out of it, I didn't realize emotionally how caught up I was until the end of my career, where I was on my way out anyway during the pandemic. I kind of had enough. And then I had a friend, a pilot that I was working with and training with earlier in the season, a really nice guy. His name was Dean. He ended up, unfortunately, flying into the side of a mountain in some fog and killing himself and all 5 other passengers on the machine in a very tragic accident. And that one really hit home for me, because the nature of the accident too, because he shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have flown into that environment in those conditions, and subsequently everyone died. That hit me like a ton of bricks. I collapsed. I fell to the ground. I heaved. Dude, I hadn't cried like that for a very, very long time. And it was the start of the surfacing of the PTSD from all of those years being involved in aviation, and seeing that kind of destruction. Being in the air helpless when you know that a property has gone up and they weren't able to get support in there, and there were people in the house. It was very hard to accept those things. Imagine what it's like for the cleanup crew afterwards when they have to go and start looking for the bodies. I'd never take on that job. No. I'd never do that. So yeah, so dealing with that's been a really interesting road. Personally, for me, it's been a complete lifestyle change. I've removed the pressure of that style of job. And I immersed myself within Web3 as an artist, because I've read this beautiful quote. You don't start art to make a living; you start art to find a more bearable way through life, which is a very, very relevant comment. So dealing with it's been a very interesting and long road, and as the triggers sort of start to dilute and disappear, and certain things don't upset me or give me that shudder, I know that I'm processing it like that. But had I been given the opportunity to earlier, like the opportunity is in cognitively, not the opportunities were in front of me, but I wasn't aware of them, I would have most definitely had a more progressive counseling program throughout of it, simply to be able to handle days like now where I have forms of regression and irrational guilt in some areas of things where you fell short, or just an overwhelming empathy for experiencing. I'm a very empathetic person naturally anyway, which is a quality, and it's also can hold you back in some areas in life. So yeah, it's been an interesting process dealing with that. And what I take from it is it's a very deep passion and caring for people who experience duress in their lives to whatever capacity. A lot more. I think I have a lot more understanding of other people from this. I'd hope to.
You speak pretty openly about it now and on Spaces. When you first left and you felt that pain from the loss of Dean, it had to have been a long road to get to this point. Did art help you get to this point of where it's, I don't want to say easier to express it, but you're a little more acclimated to being able to talk about it. It doesn't seem like it's something very easy to speak about when you're first leaving the job and talking about some of this trauma.
Yeah, I mean, it's time heals, dude. You know, you don't you don't like I've experienced death a lot in life. I've been very fortunate to observe people dying, close friends. My sister died in my arms. I've had a very close connection with death. Hence, also learned sort of the acceptance of it, and being able to deal with it a bit more rationally. I think from a personal experience. So you don't ever stop loving or caring. That doesn't happen, but you do learn to live and not have an obligation to feel sad about losing someone or feeling bad. And once down in your dantian, down here where your emotions reside, the sakaras, they call them in Vipassana, where your gut, when those feelings disperse in your body and you don't choke up naturally from a trigger, well, that's time playing its role, and that's just being a slight evolution of who you were previously, and just accepting, accepting that those feelings are allowed to continue in your life. And like, it was my sister's birthday yesterday. She died over 15 years ago. Normally, my mother and I would last year we were in tears. Yesterday we had a wonderful chat on the phone in the morning. She was wearing a pink scarf, which is symbolic of my sister Kim and all of that kind of stuff. And I felt really good, but it's an acceptance for it. So it's quite a lengthy answer there, but it takes a lot. And trauma from loss is one of the largest traumas, or the most traumatic traumas, but I con that term, that people experience. It's one of the worst ones, is that feeling of loss, because once that's gone, you don't have anything else to resort to often.
What advice would you give to someone that's experienced loss?
I don't really know.
Would you give them advice? Or is it one of those, would you listen? Or
Yeah.
how would you approach someone that has had loss? And
I'd probably let them talk a lot first. You let them talk, because when people who experience loss don't talk, it's a closed journey, and it's a difficult one, and their brain's trying to process it, and their heart. So when someone has experienced that, I think the first opportunity for them is to let them talk and start processing it themselves, and just the reassurance. It's cliches are a terrible thing, because they work so well, and they exist for a reason, yet they're cliched, and at the risk of being cliched again, it's, time does heal, and everything that we exist and experience is impermanent anyway. So we have to go through it at some stage. And if you really want to just put the hammer down and force someone to accept loss, well, you can let them know that as they get older, they're going to experience a lot more of it, because everyone is going to die.
mm-hmm.
You just might die before some of them, but you're going to experience the majority of people that dying when you're an old person. My mother, she plays bridge almost every day of the week. She's turning 84. She says bridge is one of the most dangerous games in the world. You just don't know what chair's going to be empty when she turns up the next day. It's mortal, but it's funny as fuck when you look at it from that point of view. Hey,
you got to look at it. You got to find the joy in that, right? And
you do, bro. You really do. It's the joy in life, and the smell the roses moment, the appreciate what we're doing, the me becoming a Web3 artist moment. I haven't been able to ride my bike for a couple of weeks, so I'm going for walks to the river and stuff like that. It's those moments of the now which we truly appreciate, and when you experience loss, you tend to gather those moments a little bit more, You know, it's like at a funeral, everyone's melancholy and quiet and walks around and kicks their feet in the stones and then goes to the wake and reflects. It's those moments, and they're moments which people try to remember, which are just as important as the moments when you're by yourself walking down the street and you're kicking the sand or going to the river, because you're still living. You're still here doing that. So yeah.
I love it. And I appreciate it. I appreciate your perspective. It's been grateful to digest, and I feel like I'm going to go back and rewatch this and relive this, so that way I can, because there's a lot here that you've been saying and speaking, and I'm grateful for it.
We kind of dived in pretty deep, didn't we?
We did. We jumped in. We went in. We put the bricks in. I want to bring it back a little bit to your art in Web3. Can you tell me a little bit about? So we have this career in aerial photography of the wildfires and doing the firefighting. Now we're here into Web3, not necessarily leaving it behind, but can you tell me about the life in Web3, what you're doing here as an artist, and a little bit about your future plans?
Yeah, for sure, dude. Web3 life started launching RichWater back in the well, it was sort of amongst the bull run of 2020. And my project and myself as an artist are very, very different to what they were back then, because I didn't know anything. I was new, and we had a completely different ecosystem and environment. Solana was $200. You know, look where we are now. You know, it's just scraping 17, which is exciting
Coming
for us.
back.
I know, right? I know. Oh my God. So as an artist, that journey, it's been wonderful because it's been a real emotional output, and I've been able to incorporate creating digital art and using a lot of my art photography from fires and that within that, and hiding lots of Easter eggs and sort of turning it into a bit of an intellectual collection if you decide to get involved in that side of it. But it's also, as you would strongly know, you know, with your time that you've spent here now, Brick, is your journey as an artist or a creator or whatever we are here in Web3 is very much about building a new group of friends and a community, and quite an evolving group of friends and community, which in turn changes your outlook on the art you produce and everything like that. So I don't really know what my journey is, except for a couple of my primary goals, which is my main RichWater collection, which is 500 pieces, which I've done 441 of them now. So I've 431, 41, sorry. So I've got a series of pictures to finish off, which I don't mind how long I take with those. And I've also got an IRL prize for holders of RichWater from the last 2 years, which I will distribute this Christmas, which are some special IRL bottles for holders of the RichWater collection. There'll be 300 of those available. And then I've got my Pepier collection, which was like my meme-based collection, all of those crazy cans, which have been floating around. Dude, I've got like nearly 2,500 NFTs in the ecosystem out there that I've made, which is kind of cool. And then I've also got the Deep Thought DJ project, which is a rugs project, which I've acquired. I'm CEO of, which is a very long-term play, and that's a tech-heavy project, which I'm starting to finally put some resources into again. And then I've got probably the component of it which I'm enjoying the most at the moment, which is building myself and a name as a personality within spaces. Because as we were talking about the evolvement and the community and everything, Brick, people, you know, you've got to work with what people see your value in and what you enjoy. You know, if it's not working, well, you evolve, move on, whatever. You know, just be aware of it. And people seem to enjoy some of what I contribute talking in spaces, which is, you know, it's a real compliment personally to me that it validates my brain, my heart, my emotion, and I experience imposter syndrome to quite an extreme event, quite heavily actually. So coming into spaces and having the people wanting to listen to me or just wanting to vibe with me it's a really cool part of the life I have, especially because I travel a lot and my close friends are very spread around and I don't get to see many of them very often around the world. So that's sort of where my future is growing now, is solidifying my art collection, producing less art, making it more valuable, and making myself more valuable as a community member within the whole, Web3 ecosystem. Hopefully to help some people if I can too.
Hey, I think your voice is carrying, and I think I think there's going to be many people that are helped by your presence within the space Web3 and with your art. Um,
Hope so.
we're running out of time on the show here pretty soon. I'm very grateful of this. How can someone get in contact with you? They want to follow you, all the socials, you're on the Twitter. Um,
Mm.
give your pitch. How can they follow you?
Absolutely. Well, Twitter is obviously where our NFT world resides. It's like the chat room for the new world Web3. So yeah, RichWater NFT at Twitter. Obviously, I am launching a new website soon because RichWater is becoming an IRO company within Canada now, which is something that I haven't really spoken about it too much because I've been in the background doing all the paperwork with immigration and everything, because it's also involved around my visa and my permanent residence application here. So the RichWater NFT website will be up again. And I do a little bit of Instagram. I've got my Petri Films Instagram, which has got my old stuff because my IRL name is Petri, Petri. And I don't really stretch out too much for there because I'm spreading myself thin. So I'll have a look at what other socials do. But primarily, if you want me, find me through Soul City Radio, find me through someone like yourself, or just find me directly through RichWater NFT at Twitter. And I'm there. I'll give you whatever I can.
Excellent, and I appreciate it. We'll have all the links down below or up, depending whether this is being posted to Instagram or YouTube, because we cut up all the media and spread it out between all the different ones. At least that's what I'm doing here. So we'll make sure that if you got the link, or you can scan the QR code. There's going to be a QR code on here. Then you can scan that and you can be taken right to RichWater, and then you'll be able to find the website and any of RichWater's NFTs. Go support him. Independent art, always support independent art. That's my MO. That's my mission objective here, is to highlight the independent artists here in the ecosystem. I'm super grateful of your time today. We dove in real deep. Grateful again, RichWater. We'll definitely have to do it again. Thank you for your involvement here with the Soul City BrickHaus of Art. That's Fire pop-up art show happening September 9th in Rancho Cordova, California. Thank you again to our sponsors and partners, Soul City Radio, Team Studio C, and JT List and the Solana Foundation. Supremely grateful for your support there again. RichWater, do you have any final comments? Any fire safety tips that you want to leave us with?
Let's see, we got 6 minutes left. Well done, Brick. Dude, well, I mean, my comments obviously is I love what you do. You always need to give flowers to your host, and you're one person who definitely deserves them. You've been a grinder. You have been from day one. And I love your seriousness. I love your humor. And I love the fact that you're doing an initiative like this, like the BrickHaus. I think that's fantastic. And, I'm more than happy. For fire safety, it's such an interesting thing because as we spoke briefly, and I will keep this quick so we drop out early. When we spoke earlier, you asked me that, and I was saying that it's so subjective to the environment you're in. Fire safety. If you listen to the locals, just listen to the locals when you go somewhere. If you live in a forested area, listen to the locals, find out what they do, especially the old guys. And fire safety at home is so important. Things like stoves, blankets, electric blankets, dust and lint and everything around power sockets and things like that. There's so many basic things that you can look for in protecting yourselves. But I think the most important thing is that learn how to be able to control yourself in an environment like that. If there is ever an emergency or there's a fire or something like that, just to follow the basics and understand them. If your house has been inundated with smoke, you get down low and you get out that way, because smoke smoke will, while it's warm, it'll rise. And to not panic. You know, I think that's one of that's panicking has killed so many people in situations where they could have survived if had they just had a bit of prior knowledge. So pay attention to it. I think that's my biggest thing with fire safety, because it's terrifying when you face it, and everyone should be aware of that, because it just might save your life one day. It's a cliche thing to say, but that's why they keep telling us this stuff, right?
Right. They keep telling it because it's true for a reason, because it keeps coming back. In fire safety, wildfires are indiscriminate. They're indiscriminate. They don't care who you are, your status, your money, none of that. It doesn't matter. So like, really doing a little bit goes a long way. And again, thank you so much for your time today. You dispensed quite a bit of knowledge here, and I hope it moved some people, and I hope we amplify the message of wildfire safety and forestry conservation. Thank you again, RichWater. I appreciate it. Thank you again to our sponsors. If you're interested in sponsoring future episodes of the BrickHaus of Art, please email me at brickasley@gmail.com or get in contact with me on the socials. Visit my website and scan the QR code for the link below. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to other. When you go outside this weekend and you touch that grass, and you smell that grass, and you're like, I'm laying up on this grass and I see all that sunlight, and you're getting that, and you're drinking your fresh water. Do RichWater, do fire safety a little bit of favor and pick up a little bit of trash, because without earth, there is no art. And if you pick up that trash, it won't get caught in a fire, and you won't have all that particulates getting all prickly up in the atmosphere. Hey, have a wonderful GM, everybody.
You're a legend, Brick. Thank you so much for today, brother. It's been awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate you again, Rich.
Yeah.